I stood on the porch of my childhood home that Thanksgiving afternoon, holding a pecan pie I had spent 3 hours making and a bag of carefully chosen gifts. The November air was crisp, and I could smell the turkey roasting inside. I knocked on the door with my free hand, my heart full of hope, despite the weird tension I had felt from my family over the past few weeks. I told myself everything would be fine once we were face to face. But when that door opened, and I saw my father's cold expression, when I heard those words come out of his mouth, I did not know that knock would be the last time I would ever call that place home. Before I tell you what happened when that door opened, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments. If you have ever felt pushed out by the people who were supposed to have your back, hit that like button. And subscribe, because what happened next taught me the hardest lesson about family I have ever learned. Now let me take you back to how this all started. My name is Owen. I am 28 years old, and I work as a software engineer in Seattle. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest in a 2-story wooden house with a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. My family consisted of my father, Gerald, who worked as a mechanic and held traditional values, with an iron grip, my mother, Patricia, a retired school teacher who worried about everything, and my younger brother, Brandon, who was 25. From the time we were kids, the difference in how our parents treated us was obvious. I was the responsible one, the one who studied hard, got good grades, and became independent early. I graduated with a degree in computer science, landed a solid job, and moved to the city. Brandon, on the other hand, dropped out of college halfway through, bounced from job to job, and still lived at home. But here is the thing that ate at me for years. The more I succeeded, the less attention I got. The more Brandon failed, the more they coddled him. Let me give you some examples. When I was a senior in college, I asked my parents if they could help me with tuition for my final year. My father looked at me across the kitchen table and said, "You have gotten this far on your own. You will figure it out." So I took out student loans and worked 25 hours a week at a campus bookstore while carrying a full course load. Meanwhile, when Brandon wrecked my father's truck for the 3rd time, my dad bought him a brand new pickup. When I graduated with honors, my parents did not come to the ceremony because Brandon was having a hard day and needed them at home. When Brandon racked up $8,000 in gambling debts, my parents sold their retirement stocks to cover it. I told myself for years that it was fine. They needed Brandon more because he was struggling. I was strong. I could handle it. But deep down, it carved out a hollow space inside me that I never talked about. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I called home to confirm plans. My mother answered, and her voice was strangely flat. "We will see if you can make it," she said. Not the usual excitement, not the barrage of questions about what I wanted to eat. Just cold and distant. 2 weeks before, I texted Brandon to ask what I should bring. He read the message but never replied, which was unusual even for him. 1 week before, I called my father. He answered with a clipped, "You do what you want, Owen," and hung up before I could ask what was wrong. I felt confused and worried. I replayed every recent conversation in my head, searching for something I might have said or done. I reached out more, sending cheerful texts, asking if everything was okay. The responses were short and cold, or they did not come at all. Something was wrong, but I had no idea what. So I decided to go home anyway. Maybe seeing them in person would fix whatever misunderstanding had formed. I spent the week before Thanksgiving preparing. I bought my father a wool sweater he had mentioned wanting a bottle of my mother's favorite perfume and a gaming console for Brandon, even though he barely deserved it after ignoring me. I baked that pecan pie from scratch, using my mother's old recipe, because she always said mine turned out even better than hers. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up at 6 and started the 4-hour drive from Seattle back to my hometown. The roads were lined with bare trees, their branches dark against the gray sky. I watched the city fade into farmland and felt that familiar pull of nostalgia mixed with dread. I kept telling myself, everything will be fine once I get there. We will talk it out. I pulled up to the house at 2:30 in the afternoon. Brandon's truck was parked in the driveway, along with a couple of other cars I recognized as belonging to my aunt and uncle. Smoke curled from the chimney, and I could smell roasted turkey even from outside. It looked perfect, like a scene from a holiday card. I grabbed the pie and the bag of gifts and walked up to the front door, my heart pounding with nervous hope. I knocked 3 times and waited. Inside, I could hear voices and laughter. My father's deep rumble, my mother's higher-pitched replies, and Brandon's unmistakable cackle. Someone said something funny and the whole room erupted. For a moment, I felt relieved. They sounded happy. Maybe I had been overthinking everything. Then the door opened and my father stood there blocking the entrance. His arms were crossed, his face carved from stone. I smiled, trying to ignore the unease prickling at the back of my neck. "Hey, Dad, happy Thanksgiving. I brought—" He cut me off. "Owen." The way he said my name made my stomach drop. It was not a greeting. It was a warning. I shifted the pie in my hands. "Can I come in? I brought some things for—" "We do not want to see your face here." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I stared at him, certain I had misheard. "What dad it is, Thanksgiving. I drove 4 hours. I know what day it is, and I know what you did." My mind raced. What I did? What are you talking about? My mother appeared behind him, her eyes red and puffy like she had been crying. She would not look at me. "Owen, you should leave," she said, her voice shaking. "You have hurt this family enough." "Hurt the family? I do not understand." Then Brandon stepped into view, standing just behind our parents, and he was smiling. Not a friendly smile. A smug, satisfied grin that made my blood run cold. "Come on, bro," Brandon said, his tone dripping with fake sympathy. "Do not act like you do not know." I looked at him, and everything clicked into place. "Brandon, what did you tell them?" He shrugged, still smiling. "I told them the truth. That you have been talking behind their backs, saying they are terrible parents, that you are ashamed of where you came from." "That is a lie." My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "I never—" My father's voice boomed. "Enough. Your brother showed us the messages. We know everything." "What messages, Dad? Let me see them. Let me explain." "There is nothing to explain. You think you are better than us now with your fancy job and your city life. Well, you are not welcome here anymore." I could see my aunt and uncle standing in the living room, watching through the doorway. My aunt shook her head in disappointment. My uncle looked away. They all believed it. Every single one of them. I felt something crack inside my chest. It was not just anger or confusion anymore. It was deeper than that. It was the realization that no matter what I said, no matter what evidence I could provide, they had already chosen to believe Brandon over me. Just like they always had. I tried one more time, my voice barely steady. "I never said anything like that. Brandon is lying. Please just let me show you." My mother was crying now. "Do not make this harder, Owen. Just go." I stood there for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 10 seconds. I looked at my father and saw no trace of doubt in his eyes. I looked at my mother and saw tears, but also a firmness that told me she had made up her mind. I looked at Brandon and saw pure victory dancing in his expression. Something shifted in me. A calm settled over my shoulders like a blanket. I realized there was nothing I could say that would change this moment. So I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally understood. "You know what?" I said, my voice eerily calm. "You are right." They all looked surprised. They had expected me to yell or beg. "I did say something about you," I continued. "I told my therapist that I have spent my whole life trying to earn love that you freely gave to someone who never deserved it." The silence was deafening. "But you do not have to worry about seeing my face again. I am done." I set the bag of gifts and the pie down on the porch. I did not hand them over. I just left them there. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said. Then I turned and walked away. I did not run. I did not look back. I walked to my car with my head up and my shoulders straight, and I drove away from that house. I made it about 15 minutes down the road before I had to pull over. I found an empty parking lot behind a closed coffee shop and just sat there with the engine off. My hands were shaking. My eyes burned, but I did not cry. I felt hollow, like someone had reached inside and scooped out everything that used to be there. I kept replaying the scene in my head. My father's words, Brandon's smile, my mother's tears. The way my entire family had looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was the villain. But then I remembered something else. I had smiled. I had walked away. I had not begged. I had not broken down. I had kept my dignity even when they tried to take everything else from me. I started the car and drove back to Seattle. The highway stretched out dark and empty ahead of me. By the time I got home, it was 9 o'clock at night. I unlocked the door to my apartment, dropped my keys on the counter, and collapsed onto the couch. The silence was suffocating. At 10 that night, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Mom calling. I stared at it until it went to voicemail. 15 minutes later, Dad calling. I let it ring. 10:30, Brandon calling. I silenced it. It kept going. Call after call after call. By the time I finally turned off my phone and went to bed, there had been 37 missed calls. The next morning was Black Friday. I woke up feeling numb and exhausted. I turned my phone back on, and it immediately exploded with notifications. 82 missed calls, dozens of text messages. My voicemail inbox was full. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened the voicemail from my mother first. Her voice was panicked, almost unrecognizable. "Owen, please pick up. We need to talk. Something happened. Brandon. Oh God, Owen, please call me back." The next one was from my father. His tone was completely different from yesterday. Softer, almost broken. "Son, we made a mistake. Call me back. It is important." Then Brandon. His voice was trying to sound casual but had a nervous edge. "Hey bro, can you call me? I think there has been a misunderstanding." I scrolled through the text messages. Most were from my mother. "Owen, the bank called. Brandon took out a loan in your father's name. $20,000. He said he needed it for his business, but there is no business. We just found out. He is gone. Left the house last night. Please call." Another one from my father. "I was wrong. I should have listened to you. Brandon showed us fake screenshots. He photoshopped messages to make it look like you said terrible things. When we confronted him about the loan, he admitted everything. Please come home." I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt relieved that the truth had come out. But instead, I just felt tired, and sad, and angry. I was not surprised that Brandon had lied. I was not even surprised about the money. What hurt was how easily my parents had believed the worst about me. How quickly they had thrown me away based on faked evidence and the word of someone who had been manipulating them for years. I thought back to 3 weeks ago, when Brandon had asked me for help logging into our father's online banking account. He said Dad wanted to set it up, but did not know how. I had refused telling Brandon that Dad should call me directly if he needed help. Now I understood why Brandon had asked. I sat there with my coffee staring out the window at the gray Seattle morning. Part of me wanted to call them back immediately. They were my family. They were in trouble. That is what you do for family. Right? But another part of me, the part that had been standing on that porch yesterday, being told I was not wanted, remembered exactly how much my love and loyalty had been worth to them. I made my decision. I typed out a single text message and sent it to both of my parents. I received your messages. I am glad the truth came out, but I need time. What happened at Thanksgiving showed me exactly where I stand in this family. You chose to believe the worst about me without even asking my side. That hurt more than any words Brandon could fake. I will reach out when I am ready. Until then, please respect my space. I hit send. Then I blocked their numbers. Not permanently. Just for now. I needed silence to think. 2 days later, on Sunday morning, my doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. I opened the door and found my parents standing there. My father looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 days. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot, and he had not shaved. My mother looked even worse. Her eyes were so swollen from crying that they were almost shut. She was holding a paper bag that smelled like homemade food. "Owen, please," my father said. His voice cracked. "We drove 3 hours. Just give us 5 minutes." I stood in the doorway. I did not invite them in. I did not move aside. I just stood there blocking the entrance the same way my father had blocked me 3 days ago. My mother spoke next, her voice trembling. "We are so sorry. We were wrong. We should have trusted you. Brandon has always had problems, but we never thought he would go this far." My father cleared his throat. "I was too hard on you. I see that now. You were always the strong one, so I thought you did not need us. But Brandon, I thought he needed more help. I was wrong." I looked at both of them and said very calmly, "You were not just wrong about Brandon. You were wrong about me. You chose to believe I would betray you without proof, without question. That is what hurts." The silence stretched between us. "I do not know if I can forgive that yet," I said. My mother's face crumpled. "We understand. We just wanted you to know we are sorry, and we need your help. Brandon emptied our savings before he left. We do not know how to fix this." And there it was. The real reason they had driven 3 hours. They needed money. They needed me to fix the mess that Brandon had made the same way I always fixed things. But this time I had a choice in how I responded. "I will help you with the financial mess," I said. "Not because you deserve it, but because I am not Brandon. I do not abandon people when they need me." Relief washed over their faces. "But there are conditions," I added. They both looked at me waiting. "First, family therapy. All of us. If we are going to rebuild this, we do it right. Second, no more golden child treatment. No more bailing Brandon out when he comes back, and he will come back. He needs to face consequences for once in his life. Third, you respect my boundaries. If I need space, you give it to me. No more showing up unannounced or blowing up my phone." My father and mother looked at each other, then back at me. My father nodded slowly. Deal. Anything you want, son. I will transfer money for the loan by tomorrow, I said. But I am not coming home for Christmas. I need time. My mother started crying again. We understand. Okay, I said. They stood there for another moment like they wanted to say more, but I had nothing else to give them right now. Finally, they turned and walked back to their car. I watched them drive away, then closed the door. I leaned against it and exhaled. I felt exhausted. But I also felt something else. Relief. Control. For the first time in my entire life, I had set boundaries with my family, and they had agreed to respect them. Over the next few weeks, I followed through on my promises. I transferred the money to cover the fraudulent loan. I found a family therapist named Dr. Helen Kim, who specialized in complicated family dynamics. I scheduled our first session for mid-January. In the meantime, I focused on myself. I started seeing my own therapist to work through everything that had happened. I spent time with my close friend Marcus, who had been my roommate in college and had always seen through my family's dysfunction. I joined a gym and started going to yoga classes. I threw myself into my work. My parents sent me updates every few days, short texts letting me know they were okay. They did not push. They did not demand. They respected the boundaries I had set, which was more than they had ever done before. Brandon disappeared completely. There were rumors he had gone to California, but no one knew for sure. Part of me wondered if I should feel guilty for not trying to find him, but mostly I just felt pity. He had burned every bridge he had, and he would have to live with that. Christmas came and I did not go home. I had told my parents I would not, and I kept my word. Instead, I volunteered at a soup kitchen downtown, serving meals to people experiencing homelessness. It felt good to do something that mattered. While I was ladling soup into bowls, I met an older man named Eugene. He was a veteran with a weathered face and kind eyes. We talked during his meal, and he told me he had lost contact with his family 20 years ago over a misunderstanding that had spiraled out of control. Pride kept me away, he said, stirring his soup. Now they are all gone. My wife passed 5 years ago. My son does not know where I am. Do not make my mistake, son. If there is a chance to fix things, take it. But do it on your terms. His words stayed with me. That night, Christmas Eve, I unblocked my parents' numbers and called them. It was a short call, awkward in places but sincere. Merry Christmas, son, my father said. We miss you. Merry Christmas, Dad. I miss you too. I am not ready to come home yet, but I am glad we are talking. My mother's voice was thick with emotion. That is all we need. Just knowing you are okay. When I hung up, I felt a strange mixture of pain and hope. Maybe we could heal from this, but it would take time. In January, we had our first therapy session. The three of us sat in Dr. Kim's office, a warm room with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. The silence at the beginning was suffocating. Dr. Kim gently encouraged each of us to share how we were feeling. My father went first. It was clearly hard for him. Gerald had never been a man who talked about emotions. I was afraid, he said finally, his voice rough. Afraid that Owen did not need me. He was always so capable, so smart. I did not know how to connect with him. Brandon was easier because he needed help. I could fix things for him. But with Owen, I did not know what to offer. He paused, his hands clenched in his lap. I should have trusted you. I should have asked questions instead of just believing those screenshots. I am sorry. My mother spoke next, tears streaming down her face. I have always been so proud of you, Owen. But I thought you were fine without us. You built this whole life in the city, and you seemed so happy. I did not realize you were hurting. I am sorry we made you feel invisible." Then it was my turn. My voice shook when I spoke. I spent my whole life trying to prove I was good enough. Every achievement, every success, I thought, maybe this time you would see me the way you saw Brandon. But it never happened. When you turned me away at Thanksgiving, something broke inside me. But it also woke me up. I realized I had been chasing something you were never going to give me. Dr. Kim let the silence sit for a moment, then said, "Healing does not happen overnight. But the fact that you are all here willing to do this work is a start." We did not hug at the end of that session. We did not have some tearful reconciliation. But we had taken the first step, and that mattered. By February, I was in a different place mentally. I sat in my favorite coffee shop one afternoon, watching the rain streak down the window, and thought about everything that had happened over the past few months. I realized something important. I could not change the past. I could not make my parents love me the way I had always wanted. But I could choose how I responded to it. I could set boundaries. I could demand respect. And most importantly, I could love myself even when they did not. I was not angry at my parents anymore. I understood they were flawed people who had made mistakes just like everyone else. I still felt anger toward Brandon, but even that was fading into something more like pity. He had destroyed his own life, and that was punishment enough. In March, my mother called and asked if I would come home for dinner. Not for a holiday, not for a special occasion, just dinner. I thought about it for a long time before I answered. "Yes," I said. "I will come." The drive back to my hometown felt different this time. The roads were familiar, but I was not the same person who had driven them 4 months ago. When I pulled up to the house, I felt a flutter of nervousness, but it was not the desperate hope I used to feel. It was just normal anxiety about an uncertain situation. I walked up to the door and knocked. This time it opened immediately. My mother stood there with a genuine smile on her face. "Come in," she said. Dinner was simple. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. We sat around the same table where I had eaten 1,000 meals growing up, but the dynamic was different. There were awkward moments when no one knew quite what to say. But there were also moments of laughter, small jokes, and comfortable silence. When I got ready to leave, my father walked me to the door. He stuck out his hand, and I shook it. He held on for a moment and said, "Thank you for giving us another chance." I looked him in the eye and said, "We are not fixed yet, Dad, but we are trying. That is what matters." He nodded, and I saw something in his face that I had never seen before. Respect. I drove back to Seattle that night, and as I watched the lights of my hometown disappear in the rearview mirror, I thought about everything I had learned. They say family is everything. But sometimes family is the thing that hurts you most. That Thanksgiving. I learned that walking away does not make you weak. Setting boundaries does not make you cruel. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose yourself. And if they really love you, they will respect that choice. They will do the work to earn you back. I do not know if my family and I will ever be what we were. Maybe we should not be. Maybe we need to become something new, something healthier. But I do know this, I am not that kid standing on the porch anymore begging to be let in. I walked away with my head high. And if I ever walk back, it will be on my terms. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to set boundaries with people you love? Have you ever had to choose yourself over family expectations? Drop your answer in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because I have more stories about finding strength in the hardest moments of life. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find the courage to stand up for yourself, whatever that looks like in your life. Take care of yourself out there. You deserve respect, especially from the people who are supposed to love you most.